Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Girl, Why Not You podcast. I'm your host for today, Jenny Blackwood, and I am here on a topic that I have seen so many women confront throughout their lives and maybe not necessarily understand how to handle it. I am talking to you today if you've been feeling restless lately, like something inside you keeps whispering, there's more for me. I want you to know you're not imagining it. A lot of women reach a point where life looks good on the outside, but something inside feels unsettled. And instead of listening to that feeling, guess what we're really good at doing? Talking ourselves out of it. We tell ourselves we should be grateful. We tell ourselves it's bad timing. We tell ourselves we're crazy for wanting more. But that quiet nudge you keep feeling, it's not random. And guess what? It's not going away until you do something about it. Today, I want to talk to you about that nudge. What is it actually, why it shows up when it does, and how to stop doubting yourself every single time that you feel it. How many of you out there are like, okay, I'm all ears? I bet a lot of you. I want to talk to you about how many different times in my life I have felt that nudge and how many times it's actually turned into something so beautiful, okay? I think we all get into this place where we're going through daily life. You know, we may have kids, we have demanding jobs, we have husbands, we have things that are very demanding of us. But if you're like me, there's been so many occasions where on the inside, I just don't feel complete. I don't feel like I've reached the point where I'm supposed to be in my life. I look around me and there's so many different blessings and things that I am so utterly grateful for. But why doesn't that little feeling inside ever go away? For the longest time, I thought it was just a part of life. I just thought, I guess I'm just not satisfied. I guess I just want more, which I kind of got down on myself for. I would say to myself, why can't you just be happy that you have this? Why are you always trying to level up? Why are you always looking for the next best thing? But what I've realized throughout the past several years, 11 years now that I've been an entrepreneur, I've realized that nudge has always showed up at a time where I'm not quite in an alignment with where I'm supposed to be. And so for all of you out there who have ever gone through this, like I've mentioned in previous episodes, that little tap on your shoulder, for me, it's like I get this burning in my chest of something. It's like I feel excited. I feel like something's out there, and I almost feel like frustrated in a way that I don't know what it is, but I get this like determination to figure it out. And so I wanted to talk to all of you out there today because I know I'm not alone. I know this happens to a lot of people. And what makes me sad is that there are a lot of people that just choose to kind of just stay dormant with it. They're like, I'm going to ignore this. This isn't for me, right? You don't think you're capable of more. You don't think that something that's burning inside of you is worth pursuing because things are just fine the way they are, right? But I think where a lot of us fall short is we have to act on those feelings. We have to get back in alignment. When I'm out of alignment, oh my gosh, it's like I feel it in my everyday life. But when I do something and I listen to those inner feelings and I listen to my intuition and I follow through, it's like finally when I hit that place, everything snaps in. I can tell you I've talked about my current business that I have, Social Grays, where I have really created what I would like to refer to as an empire. When I got the seed planted about starting that initial business, which was just about, if you don't know this yet, it's a traveling charcuterie cart. It's really cool. When I got that seed planted for me, I was like, up all night long. I was like chasing everything online. I was doing everything I could to figure it out because I felt like, oh my gosh, there's something calling to me. I have to see this through. And again, remember, I was super pregnant. It was the worst time ever to start a business, but I was unwilling to ignore what was calling to me. Okay. And so I followed through, right? I followed through. I got the cart started. It ended up being this crazy successful business right out of the gates. But very shortly after, in a time where you would have thought that I should be satisfied, I should be happy, I finally got this business going. I got what I want. I didn't have to go back to a 9-to-5, right? I am living the life that I wanted at home with my babies. You would think that at that point, I would have felt so much more settled, so much more aligned, but I didn't. When I started having so many other people throughout the world asking me, how did you do this? I want to do this too. I started getting that burning feeling in my chest again. And it's not like heartburn. I know I've said that before, but I want you to know it's like an excitement. It's like, oh, there's something waiting for you. It's just like almost like a door that you're waiting to find the right key to open, if that makes sense. So I started getting that feeling again, and I started feeling excited. I started feeling like, oh my gosh, there's something bigger coming. There's something bigger coming. And that's when I decided to create my course, my 30-day launch to success, which is basically putting in a 24-page PDF how other people throughout the world, the United States, you name it, can start that same business with ease, without the frustration, where they can go for answers. So I told myself, oh my gosh, I saw a gap. And I was like, I'm going to shoot the gap because there's people out there that need this info, and there's no resource that exists today to do that. I shot the gap. I, again, stayed up late in between nap times with my children, everything I had going on to create this guide that I then did a ton of research. Where do I put courses? How do I sell courses? How do I push this online? All these different things that I was learning as I went. But I create the course, and I post a course on a great platform called Stand Store. I then just start organically posting it out on my social media. And do you know what happened next? All of a sudden, sales start rolling in. That feeling that I had in my chest all of a sudden is gone. All I was left with was feeling happiness, satisfied. This is really happening. I listened to that nudge, okay? And with that nudge, then all of a sudden, I'm going to tell you guys, for many, many months, while this guide ramped up, it ramped up in the beginning where it was like selling a couple $100 a day, which to me at the time was massive. I mean, this is something I created one time. I put out on a platform. I advertised it on social. I wasn't even putting any money behind it. And people were excited about it because it helped solve a problem for them, okay? So they're buying the guide so many months, you guys. That guide was selling for $1,000 or more a day. It was wild. But I look back and I'm like, gosh, I had the nudge. I listened to the nudge. I could have just said, oh, I've done enough. I've got the snack cart. It's rolling. It's exciting. And, people can figure this out for themselves, right? But that's not what I was being called to do. I was being called to create something that would benefit so many other people. I've sold over 6,000 copies of this thing today. But it also was incredibly helpful to me and my situation. Where I came from with all of this truly was in a place of despair. If you've listened to my episode 1, you know all about that. So for me, what I have seen other people do is they get these callings. I've even talked to so many different people in really many different facets of business where they're excited. They're like, I think I could do this. I want to do this. But they ignore the voice. And so what happens again is like, yes, I created this course. Yes, and I felt satisfied. Well, here's me. I also, several months later get to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, the feeling's back. And again, sometimes when you feel that feeling a lot, it can get a little like, oh my gosh, am I being, selfish? Is this not enough? Do I need to figure out something else? Do I need to put myself through this? But it's like, again, all I can tell you from personal experience is if this is something that you have ever wondered, if you're like, gosh, what if I had just followed through on this? What's worse? What's worse than like taking a risk, listening to your intuition, taking a chance, moving forward on this nudge that you're getting, or years later wondering when you're still in the same place if you always should have listened to your gut after all? To me, I am like, I wouldn't say I love taking risks. Like, I wouldn't say that about me at all. But I'm also like a realist in that I understand that I didn't come this far to get this far in a lot of situations. That's a saying I tell myself a lot. There's so many things inside all of you that you haven't even tapped into yet. And so for me to get to have this opportunity to be on this platform, to give you a personal experience and remind you that I truly, at the end of the day, am a nobody. I started from scratch. I'm a mom first. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter, right? I'm all of those things. But for me, I really had to learn how to listen to my intuition for it to really start paying off, if that makes sense. And so what I see happening is, people need to be okay with where they're at, but also be okay with growth. okay? Be aware of what's going on around you. We have this one life to live, right? I don't want any single one of you living a stagnant life where you're always wondering if there's more out there, okay? We're really good when this happens at rationalizing away the feeling, okay? I'm sure a lot of you can understand that. I would say that it almost like would give a guilty feeling to a lot of people to be like, oh, but I have all this other stuff going on. And if I try this, it's going to take away from that, which at the end of the day is just excuses. And not that excuses are always bad, but an excuse is truly going to keep you from getting from point A to point B, C, D, all the way to the end of the alphabet. I want you to know that when you get the nudge, it isn't asking for some huge leap, right? It's not demanding you to take any type of action. It's merely asking you to acknowledge it. And that can look very different in so many different ways, okay? I mean, it could be that you are like, okay, I've been sitting in this position at my company for a long time now. I haven't gotten a raise. I really think that I'd be, eligible for a raise. Or maybe there's another position within the company that you're like, I've been here for a while. I think I'd like to try and level up at this point. But a lot of us will be like, well, no, I don't want to ask. I don't want to be in that uncomfortable position. I don't want to have to ask a boss. I don't want to get rejected. But again, I challenge you to ask yourself, what's worse in the long term? I think the Band-Aid effect, the ripping it off, is going to get you where you want to be so much faster. What a lot of people realize is that they've been dealt a certain deck of cards, right? You understand that. But that doesn't mean that same deck of cards always has to be the deck that you play. If you were to act on something that's calling to you, if you were to ask that boss for a raise, if you were to ask for a new position, what's the worst thing that can happen? And this is a game that I want you guys to all play with yourself. What's the worst that could happen game, okay? And this could be starting a new business adventure. It doesn't matter. When you play the what's the worst that could happen game, oftentimes you're probably going to go, that's actually not that bad. Maybe I should take that risk. The worst they can say is no. Does it mean that you asking for more or thinking that you're worth more is going to get you fired? Does it mean that if you have something else out there that you've really been wanting to pursue, that you've been feeling called to, that if you try it and it doesn't work out, that your entire life is going to combust? Probably not. So I want you all to remember this. You don't have to have a plan today. You don't need permission. You don't need the utmost confidence. You just have to stop betraying your own knowing. But what I mean by that is you know deep down inside what you want to do. You just have to convince yourself that it's what you are going to do. Anytime you pursue something, no matter what you do, it's either going to win or, let's just say, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out quite like you expected. The nice thing is you pick yourself back up, you dust yourself off, and you move on to the next. You've probably heard in your life so many different people that will talk about the fear of rejection, not wanting to be rejected, right? That doesn't feel good to any of us. But without rejection, you never get those wins. If you listen to some of the top Hollywood actors out there, how much rejection they had to experience before they actually became the version of themselves that they were always meant to be, every single one of those people could have backed out. They could have given up. They could have said, acting's not for me, right? I'm going to go back to what feels comfortable. I'm going to go back to a 9 to 5. They didn't. They kept pushing. They took the rejection, even though it stings, like a champ. They picked themselves up and they moved on. I can say the same thing for myself, even if I'm not at that level of greatness. There have been so many spots in my life where I've been like, oh, okay, this isn't going to work. In fact, I'll tell you something about me too that I realize now. I used to be like a massive job hopper. Are any of you guys job hoppers out there? I used to be the one where I would get this job. I'd be so excited about it. I'd feel like I'd master it, and then I would be over it. And I believe now, like looking back, I kind of used to like guilt myself about it. Like, why can't you just stay put? Why can't you just, find a place, like it, and stay there? Why are you always craving change? Why are you always thinking that the grass is going to be greener on the other side? And I kind of beat myself up for it for a long time. But now I look back and I say, wow, okay, because every single time I was at a new chapter, a new stepping stone in my life, I was there for a reason. But it wasn't where I was meant to be at the end game, right? It wasn't where I was supposed to be for long. And so if you guys are going through that where you're like, gosh, I like something, then I don't like something, that's perfectly okay. You're a human, you are allowed to change your mind, and you are allowed to seek change. Seeking change when you feel called is so important to the entire path of your life moving forward. So don't beat yourself up, ladies. Listen to your intuition. I hope that this podcast episode today is sitting with you guys to where you're like, oh my gosh, this is the last sign that I needed to take some big leap forward in my life. Sometimes that's all it takes, is feeling like somebody else is giving you permission to do so. Please understand that quiet nudge that you're feeling is not random. And it's not going away. So you better figure out a way to get in tune with that, to feel empowered by it, to be excited about it, and to take it to the level that you're meant to be. I so appreciate you all being here today. Every single one of you, please ask yourself, girl, why not you? If something in this episode made you sit up a little straighter or dream a little bigger, don't ignore it. That's your future nudging you. I'm living proof that you can start messy, start scared, start in the worst timing, and still create something beautiful. Thank you for listening to Girl, Why Not You? Now go take one small step towards the life you've been craving. Hit subscribe, leave a review if you feel called, and share this with someone who's ready for more.